I'm far from my prime. I'm not exactly a young guy. I'm 44 and I've even been through one divorce. A separation like this can make a man go in two different directions. One where he's happy and he has his freedom to be whatever he wants and date whoever he wants, but I chose the other direction. I felt bitter. I felt without a purpose, and my wife took everything I had, leaving me with absolutely nothing. An entire life's work, and I'm right back where I started when I was out of college. It was hard after the divorce. I had to go through multiple lawyers. After I lost everything, I didn't have enough money saved up, so I had to move in with a flatmate. I felt like a shell of a man. The day I put an ad out on Craigslist that I'm looking for a flatmate, and there I was, 44. I felt like the most insignificant person on the face of the earth. Fortunately for me, a guy responded to my ad. His name was Jake, and he was in his 20s. We met, and upon seeing that he was a nice guy, we moved into the apartment. We got along well. I mean, as well as a middle-aged man and a young guy could. I liked things a certain way. I liked everything to be neat, but of course, he was the opposite. He'd leave dishes in the sink that I needed to clean because he was saying that he would leave them to soak. He would leave cans of soda on the living room table, but I couldn't say anything to him or not anything too aggressive because I couldn't afford the place all on my own. Then the pandemic came, and we were forced to work from home, both me and my flatmate, and he was a major distraction. I had a hard job as it was, without him walking around all day and talking on the phone or listening to music, or worse yet, calling people over. He also had a job, some sort of online marketing thing. He was creating content for different businesses. It may sound like a hard and complicated job, but believe me that this guy barely worked. He was so relaxed and even made a little bit more money than me, while I had to even work overtime sometimes because my boss said so. One day, he got a girlfriend. He brought her home and they went into their room. For the course of the next 3 hours, I think, I could hear them having sex. While I was there, stuck in front of my computer, trying to put numbers and data into different sheets. All the while, my boss was emailing me constantly, saying that I don't do the job well and that I slack off, and that I'm lucky I even have this job. This went on for a long time. Each day he would bring his girlfriend over, and besides all of the noise that they would make in the bedroom, in the middle of the day and even at night when I was trying to sleep, they would also bring over people and party. They would drink, listen to loud music, talk all night. It was driving me crazy. It was the life I had always dreamed of having when I was in college. I always wanted to have a hot girlfriend and lots of friends to party with every night. But in college, I was always focused on studying. I thought that if I study, I will get an amazing job, and I would make a lot of money, and the rest of my life will be a continuous party. Well, here I am. I'm in my mid-40s. I live with a kid that's making more than me. I'm without a house, and I work for a company that doesn't appreciate me. My life sucks, and this situation that I'm in this apartment, isn't making it easier. I was feeling like I'm losing my mind and my will to live. Each night I would stare at the ceiling while I could hear laughter and people having fun. I felt like I was dead. I felt like I was a ghost and I could only see other people living. Plus, the relationship they both had was amazing. She was so nice to him, and they would constantly kiss each other and call each other pet names. She would wake up early and make breakfast before she took it to his room. It was like the relationship I never had. Slowly but surely, I started to hate the both of them. Sure, they didn't do anything personal to me. Heck, they never really acknowledged me, but I hated them. Day by day, I wanted them gone. I started to think about my wife and how badly she treated me my entire life. And here was this kid who had it all. Why couldn't I have that? Why did I become such a big loser? One night they were out, and he said that I shouldn't wait up, joking of course. I was so relieved. I thought that I had the apartment and the night to myself. I had a big day at work tomorrow, and I needed to rest. The boss and I would have a meeting through the camera, and I was nervous about what he was going to say to me. Slowly but surely, I fell asleep, but around 2 a.m. a noise woke me up. It was him and his girlfriend. They came back and they were drunk. They started bumping into things and breaking them in the kitchen. They also laughed so loud and talked that I couldn't fall asleep anymore. I was furious. In that moment, I snapped. I got up, came out of my room, and I shouted at them, and I told them to shut up. The guy turned towards me and said, "Chill, old man. Just go back to your cave." And they both laughed at me. I had enough. I went into the kitchen, and I grabbed a rolling pan. What are you doing, old man? You gonna make us some cookies?" he said. But seconds after that, I hit him in the head with it. I hit him really hard, multiple times. There was blood all over the kitchen, and his girlfriend screamed, not knowing what to do. She jumped on my back, trying to make me stop, but I pushed her. She managed to slam her head on the cupboard and fell unconscious. And then, there was silence. I went to my room and I laid on my bed. An hour had gone by, but the house was still completely silent. Then slowly I got up, went over to the coffee machine and made myself a cappuccino before calling the police. My life was over. Neighbors, huh? It's nice to have them. If you're out of something like flour or sugar late at night, and you get the urge to bake a pie, a good neighbor is nice to have. But people are weird today, and sometimes it's not even safe to trust someone. Let me tell you about the time that I got close to a neighbor of mine. I was almost 32, and I've been living in my apartment for a little over a year. I had 2 bedrooms and was really cozy. I was working at home from some time due to the situation that took the world by storm. We all know what I'm talking about. Day after day, doing the same thing and staying inside, it really took a toll on me. I like to occasionally walk in the park, or the fact that I could take a subway to work. I liked people, and the entire thing made me go crazy. The only time I could escape that apartment was when I finished my duties and I could go out on the street and enjoy a cigarette, right after I would take a walk around the block. It was my time to de-stress and stay away from that laptop that made my eyes hurt. One day, it was a Tuesday, I believe, I finished my shift, and after I shut off my computer, I stretched my arms and my legs a little, then I grabbed my cigarettes and went outside. There was a lot on my plate to finish off that day, and it was quite late when I stepped outside. I set up my fitness band so I could track how many steps I walk, and I began heading towards the end of the block. There wasn't anyone outside. The street was empty, and the only living being I could see during my walk was a stray cat. I stopped and it called to me, hoping that I could pet it, but after it gave me an ugly look, like most cats do, it ran away. I continued my walk, and soon after that I got in front of my building. I checked my band and I saw that I walked almost 7,000 steps. I was really proud of myself, but the next thing I was about to do wasn't so noble. I took a cigarette out of the packet, and after that first puff, I felt a feeling of happiness and freedom. I didn't want to go in my apartment, not yet anyways, so I tried to smoke it as slowly as I could. Upon doing so, I looked across the street at the other apartment building. I saw a guy walking towards me. He was in his 20s, so he was younger than me. I thought maybe he would ask for a cigarette or something, but I didn't expect that his intentions to be something completely different. He introduced himself. "Hello, I've been seeing you taking your walks every day. I'm Brian and I live across the street." We shook hands and I introduced myself, but he didn't seem to be going nowhere. He started saying that he loves women who take care of themselves and that I looked amazing. He then asked me how old I was, but I told him that it's not something you should ask a woman. It's not polite. He excused himself, but he didn't go away. So I started smoking faster, and after I was done, I told him that it was nice to meet him and I'll be going back upstairs. As I turned around, he grabbed my hand, a gesture that I found offensive. He then asked me if I'd go out with him. It's been a long time since a guy asked me out, but this is not the way I expected it to happen. I politely refused, but he still didn't let go of my hand. Instead, he continued to look at me in the eyes as if he was still waiting for a response. I pulled my hand away and told him a cold bye before I entered my building and closed the door behind me. I got into my apartment and looked out the window. He was still there, on the street, and for a brief second, I could swear that he looked right at me. At that moment, I crouched down and stepped away from the window. Anyway, I went to bed excited for another day of staying in and looking at that computer screen. The next day went on as usual, and after work I continued my routine of going for a walk and a cigarette. But little did I know that it wasn't going to be the same. I went out in the street and I started walking. Seconds after, I heard a voice behind me. It was that weird guy. He said that he was walking too and asked me if I wanted to walk together. I told him that I had my AirPods in and I usually listen to music while I walk. He said, okay, but he still followed me all the way back to my building. I saw him coming over, so I decided not to smoke that evening and went right upstairs. He was starting to creep me out. As I got upstairs, I saw that I got an email from work. It was an urgent matter that I needed to attend to and it couldn't wait. So I opened my computer and started working. It was around 9 p.m. and I was still on the clock. All of a sudden, somebody burst through my door. I got scared and yelled. It was the guy from across the street. He was breathing heavily. "You need to come to my place right now," he said. I told him he was crazy and urged him to get out, but instead of doing so, he came right at me, put his hand on my mouth so I couldn't scream, and dragged me out of the apartment. Being late, no one could see us. He dragged me all the way into his apartment. After he let me go, I started acting violent towards him, but he grabbed my hand and started to explain that there was a guy in my apartment in the other room. He saw through the window. So I called the police to investigate my place, but they didn't find anyone. They did find a bag of weird things. It was filled with handcuffs, dog collars, blindfolds, and other creepy stuff. The creepy dude had just saved my life. Seeing that he's a good soul, I thanked him and apologized for acting in that manner. He said he understood, and then, wouldn't you know it, we went out on our first date the next evening. Everything went well. We talked and laughed, and he didn't have a problem that there was almost 10 years age difference between me and him. And also, besides being a little weird, he was kind of cute and mature for his age. I started to like him. After the date, we went back to his place. I made myself comfortable, got cozy, and looked around while he was in the kitchen, opening up a bottle of wine. I never really paid attention to his place the time that he brought me there, but hey, it was a special circumstance. He had photos of him on hikes and fishing trips. He seemed like quite an adventurous guy. As he was pouring the wine, I went to the washroom to freshen myself up for the long night ahead. As I was opening the door, I thought I heard something. There was just some mild yet strange noise coming up from the storage room adjacent to the door. I opened it, turned on the light, and I just froze. There were two girls sitting on the floor, tied up, dark eyes, torn clothes, and cuts all over their bodies. They were also gagged so they couldn't scream. They looked weak, like they had been there for days. Before he could notice, I turned off the lights and closed the door. I immediately sent an SOS message to a coworker of mine and pretended to be normal. Thankfully, the police arrived on time. Apparently, this guy was a serial abuser and had a history of assaulting and killing the girls he met. To this day, I still have nightmares thinking of that incident and feel scared alone. I so wish The Office resumes soon.